I can remember going into Chuck in the early days. And I would have the most beautiful spreadsheets and data, and I'd be like, Chuck, I found this great thing. And he would say, Mike, I just want to remind you, every one of those data points is a real human being with feelings and with emotions, and we win one customer at a time. And then it just shows up in spreadsheets later.
Welcome back to Innovator Evaporate, where we explore the relentless pace of change and the innovators who drive it. I'm Toph Day, your host, and could not be more excited to have Mike Clem, the CEO of Sweetwater, with us today. Sweetwater is the world's leading music technology and instrument retailer. Mike has been with Sweetwater since 2003, where he's held numerous roles, ascending all the way to CEO just over a year ago, about 2 years ago. He's recognized as both an innovator and mentor in the industry, a proud Purdue grad, and lifelong drummer. Mike brings a unique mix of technical expertise and creative passion to leading Sweetwater's next chapter of growth. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Good to see you, my friend.
I am so fired up to chat today. We're going to do a little teaser out there for where we're headed. A lot of times we think about entrepreneurship and, in our worlds, right, with innovation-driven enterprises, and you got to go take this crazy risk and build this AI widget that could be out of business in a week, at this point, the way things are going. But a lot of times we don't talk about this idea of intrapreneurship, right? Folks who are innovative and disruptive and come up through an organization and ascend to, in your case, the CEO of $1 billion plus company, which is an entire unique journey experience in of itself. So you want to go down that path today?
Sure.
And maybe we'll also hit some of the things that you're doing. It's hard for companies, right? When you pass 50 million, 100 million, 500 million, to stay innovative, to stay disruptive. And I know you have a different take on innovation and AI and how you're applying that, thinking about the human-centric side. So let's take that journey.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
So tell us today, let's start off with where you're at today, and then we're going to kind of go back in time in that journey that brought you to where you are today. So tell us about your role today and where you're at.
Yeah. So became CEO just about 2 years ago. Joined the company, my background in technology and in marketing. And so grew up, similar story to you, small town, Indiana.
Yep.
Grew up in a simple family, hardworking family. But a very loving family, creative family. And so enjoyed music from an early age and played drums.
Did you start on a 5-gallon bucket? What did you start on?
Not quite the bucket, but beat on anything I could. And ended up playing in a number of bands in high school and college. But my other love was technology. And so at our house, we had a very early Apple computer. My mom was an educator, and so we had an opportunity to, have an Apple computer, and I would just write code. And so came time for college. Almost went to music school, ended up at Purdue instead, doing computer engineering in mid-90s as the internet was becoming a thing. And so had the opportunity to just build some of that early retail technology, and then ended up specializing into e-commerce tech, started one of my own companies, ran some other companies, and then found my way to Sweetwater in 2003 as sort of the technology and marketing guy when it was just a $4 million website. And so had this opportunity to partner with our founder, Chuck, and kind of build out his vision from an early stage.
That's amazing. So you graduated in 98.
Yes.
And so that is right when, in 98 timeframe, that's right when the internet was becoming a thing, right? People are starting to build websites and figure out this whole game. So that you started an agency?
I was doing, there were a couple of ideas and on my own. And then I had worked at a couple digital agencies, some big brands, some startups. And, there were no off-the-shelf tools at this time. You built your own technology.
Yeah.
So
even building a website was complicated.
A website, a search engine, a cart. You had to build all these things yourself. And so even today, that when you have to kind of come in there with an engineering mindset and figure out how we're going to build this retail operation, that serves me even today as we think about Sweetwater. So
you joined Sweetwater about 5 years out of school.
Earlier, that's right. Yeah.
Roughly.
Yeah, roughly.
And so. And all CEOs have their skill sets, right? You have a marketing background, a sales, an ops, a finance, whatever it might be. And so how did you meet Chuck then originally?
Yeah, we were connected through a sort of mutual friend, if you will. And if you understand the kind of origin of Sweetwater, so it's a 46-year-old company founded in 1979.
Yep.
Chuck, a serial entrepreneur here in Indiana, had founded Sweetwater as a professional musician. He was touring. He started the company not really as retail to begin with, but more as a services and recording studio. And so it has this very organic beginnings of just treating customers well, like just valuing that customer relationship more than anything else, adding value, kind of blossomed over years into retail. So by the time I joined, like I said, $4 million website, it was about a $60 million company,
Okay.
but the rest of that was over the phone.
Yep.
So creating these true one-to-one relationships with customers and not just waiting for the phone to ring, but then nurturing those relationships outbound. So it was a very enterprise sales motion, very organic and just valuing these relationships, true expertise. So when I joined, and it's sort of back to your point, I bring my engineering mindset and we started saying, okay, how can we scale this? How do we start thinking in terms of systems and flywheels and really kind of begin that growth phase online?
So when you, so you didn't apply for a job at Sweetwater. You did apply. Or is it more relationship?
Yeah, organic, yeah.
So he's launching this website. You have this e-com, right? You're playing around with the internet, learning websites, learning how to reach customers, etc. And so they had just kind of launched that. And so he's looking for someone who has expertise to help build this website that's still very young in its journey, doing $4 million, which, by the way, in 2003, that seems pretty good.
Was still fairly significant.
That's pretty significant.
Because you were there, you lived
Right.
in this world,
Yeah.
and none of the channels were mature yet.
Right.
So, and we didn't even have words for everything yet.
Right.
SEO,
Yes.
Product teams, growth teams didn't exist yet. Customer journeys,
People were
UX.
doing keyword stuffing and whatever else trying to get
and
SEO up.
so I like when you talk about intrapreneurship, like that's exactly what we were doing, which is he had product market fit. He knew that we're going to be the relationship focus. We have this sort of almost old school customer service, mom and pop. That's the product.
Yes.
Now, how do we scale it? And how do we use this new World Wide Web to sort of meet new customers and invite them into this very unique business model, which we still do today. So, so if you place an order on Sweetwater.com, we're going to match you up with one of these now 600, what we call sales engineers, with a lot of science. And then we're going to develop relationships. Hey, what are you putting those strings on? Oh, you have a collection of guitars. Oh, left-handed guitars. And so we're capturing all this information. And you can just imagine all the really, really cool things we can do with personalization and product recommendations.
Yep.
But really what we're doing is just getting to know you as a person.
Yep.
We're in it for lifelong journeys with customers, not one transaction at a time. So the more I can learn about you, the more we can serve you and then sort of insert value along that journey, whether that's purchasing, whether that's content, training, introductions, and this kind of thing.
I heard something recently that hit me kind of hard. And this is what I think you guys have mastered. And it takes me back to when we were up at your headquarters a couple of years ago, Max Yoder, who is a big customer of Sweetwater. And he felt he had a personal relationship with the rep there at Sweetwater, but had never met him. And we went upstairs and he met him for the first time in person. Was an incredible moment just to watch how deep that customer service relationship is. So the idea of focusing on the buying habits versus the selling habits, like, is the best way to sell. Like, so focusing on that customer, and you're right. Oh, you're left-handed. So let's make sure we think about how that impacts whatever you're buying. So maybe talk about that a little bit. It's so easy for anybody who has a service or a widget to just want to sell. But maybe there's a better way to do that and think about it from the customer's standpoint. Are there any it sounds like that was already built into the culture, but aha moments, like how do you parlay the physical phone call outreach to the customer, parlay that into the digital outreach to the customer? What are some of those connection points that you guys thought about?
It's almost like you have two sales motions. You have this original outbound, very enterprise, nurturing relationships, and then you have this newer e-commerce, almost self-serving customers. Now we're very comfortable going online. We buy things online. We said we never would.
Right.
Shoes, guitars.
Yeah.
And so part of our those connection points is, okay, we have these relationships. Where those two intersect is where it gets really fun, because we can put a human into the loop. What other people are doing in pure play commerce, just digital experiences only, we can bring these humans in. So we can use a lot of tech and science and innovation to understand you more, based on not just clicks and searches and web behavior, but
Right.
but talking to you on the
Right.
phone like a
Yep.
human being. Oh,
Yeah.
this is what your real passion is or goal, or trying to record this album or volunteer at your church. And so we get to know you at that deeper level. Then we can just pour that into modeling and data science and AI and figure out how can we serve you better. It's not a business tactic. It's like, how can we actually add value for you in that relationship? So there's part science. And then when we figure those things out, like we predict the next agenda, or, oh, it looks like you're in market for, this or that category. Instead of just shotgunning ads out in a very transactional way, we just pick up the phone. We just check in. And that's where the connection gets really fun.
So there, when you were, so maybe take us through that kind of that first 10-year journey. So as technology is advancing, and from a team and talent standpoint, the folks that you guys needed to kind of, how much do you still have offline from a business standpoint, percentage wise?
Yeah, sounds like a simple question. They're just so intertwined at this
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Just call it half and half.
Okay.
What we would transact online versus with an agent.
So as you're thinking about that journey, what were you thinking about individually in your progression in the company versus the talent you needed to bring onto your teams? What were some of the things what were some of the things that you were thinking about from a talent standpoint to enable innovation and disruption to continue doing that, slash how you were determining what technology to deploy, and then like even in workflows?
Yeah. What I love about Sweetwater is we just think about organic growth. A lot of companies, what can I acquire, or how do I use M&A to sort of grow? Sweetwater, we're a company full of builders, founders, and so we're immediately thinking about, how do we build that ourselves, and how do we really custom fit it for us? And so in that first 10 years, it was a lot of, okay, we get the business model. We know we're centered around this customer first experience, and how do we just build around that? Chuck, our founder, he had a word for it, Kaizen, which is, how do we just come in every day and just get a little bit better? How do we make that experience just a little bit better? A lot of companies, as they think about innovation, it's like, what's your one North Star? And we just never think that way. Like we joke, we have 1,000 North Stars. It's like, how do you just come in and make every part of that journey and experience better? So a lot of the first 10 years was really, how do you break that journey down into the sort of actionable levers, if you will, or metrics, and do we really understand what that customer journey is, and where are these places where we can scale that tech? We think a lot about, when we talk about metrics, we talk about our growth framework. And so you have, revenue obviously is the sort of top line goal, but that's a lagging metric. And so we think about what are all the inputs into that we can control, which might be phone calls, it might be visits to the website. And then off of each one of those, we make a roadmap of, what are the ways we can go innovate and understand it as sort of a system, if that makes sense.
That totally makes sense. I'm trying to think if we've talked about this on the podcast yet. I feel like we might have touched on it in one of our episodes. Venture capital has drastically changed in the last just 1, 2, 3 years. And there's especially in the innovation driven part of the market, there's like these I'll call them faux badges of honor. I raised $1 million round, I raised a $5 million, a $10 million round. And to your point you just mentioned a minute ago, like these massive transformative, what's this massive piece of innovation thing that we have to do that's going to transform us? And we forget that the way to make giant leaps is with many small steps. And venture capital is kind of built differently, right? And it kind of forces businesses, I think, sometimes to make bad decisions that sometimes you don't know for a year or two. And from what I may be wrong, but it sounds like Sweetwater kind of grew organically, maybe took more non-traditional, maybe took on some bank debt or some along the way, but it grew more organically by focusing on the customer, making those many small increments of improvements. Is that correct? Because you didn't take on venture capital, I don't think.
That's right.
So what's talk about that, like the freedom of the ability to do what's unique and organic to the company and the customer experience, versus having some faux milestone or metric you have to hit?
Yeah, it's a great point because, and we were founder led, and we were bootstrapped,
Yeah.
and that gives you an incredible amount of latitude when you're not turning in results quarter by quarter or beholden to some
Right.
numbers. The way we talk about it is we take the long view. This company was never designed for exit, was never designed to be flipped. We were in it for the long haul. And that
Yep.
changes your entire decision-making framework, the way we add value. We win by giving away more value. It's an
Yes.
expensive business model. This free 2-year warranty, this free lifetime tech support, the interesting things we do with guitar inspections and photographs but we know, and we see it in the data, that when we just overwhelm you with that amount of value and this white glove customer service experience and obsession over details, you're going to tell your friends, and there's a trust and a loyalty.
Yes.
And that times, now 46 years has equaled, in our case, 20% a year, compounded growth for 2 decades. And so we're, I think, a good example of what you're describing, which is you just come in every day, you put one foot in front of another, you just say, how can we be better than we were the day before? We don't talk a lot about competition at Sweetwater. There's some companies where it's on a whiteboard. How do we go beat so-and-so?
Yeah.
We just don't think that way. We play our game. We come in and get better. And I think our story says, yeah, that's how you just grow organically. And that's a really durable growth.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're working backwards from what do the customers need? How do we serve better today? We're not naive to what competitors are doing, but we're just finding ways where we can serve better.
So your personal growth in the company as you're going through that, so been there, over a little over 20 years. What were some of the milestones that as you're growing, you're building the team? What were some of the moments that were a struggle for you, right? In terms of leadership style, leadership development, whether it was domain expertise or you're a drummer, right? And so, and I think a lot
You're
of
saying drummers have a hard time figuring out business.
No. What I was going to say was, what I think is awesome is I think a lot of the folks that work there at Sweetwater are also musicians. Like they have their own side gigs or whatever, which is also very entrepreneurial. So I think it's like awesome when you hire a bunch of self-starters in essence. There's another thing I want to talk about in a little bit is the creative economy and how we think about those folks as entrepreneurs. A lot of times I think people don't, and it's very entrepreneurial. But like from your personal growth standpoint, leadership styles, all those kinds of things, what were some of the things you learned along the way that worked, or breakthroughs that did work that progressed your own career through that process?
I think the biggest takeaway for me, the biggest learning was when you're the organically growing company, you have to think like a founder, and you have to hire people that think like founders. There's a certain scrappiness, even 46 years in and approaching $2 billion in sales, we still think we've created a culture that values innovation, being nimble, moving quickly, changing direction as we see opportunity in the market. Getting people that think in that way and value that, as opposed to, wait a minute, you're changing this is frustrating. When you get the right team and align in that way. And then I think the biggest learning is you just have to be in proximity. When you have this kind of founder mode, kind of founder mindset throughout the company, chain of command leadership doesn't always work well. You have to sort of be there with the team. Guys, I'm getting there, bringing you all along with me. And I think that's the culture we've built, which I think goes back to your original point, which is we continue to grow. The largest online seller of instruments in the country. So we have sort of all the powers of the incumbent, right? Size and scale and resources and efficiency and economy. But day to day, our mindset is still very much nimble, kind of a startup, scrappiness or whatever. And I think that when you can blend those two in a healthy way, that's how we're able to continue to move fast and innovate as intrapreneurs, as you said.
Some of the greatest engineers and product folks I've ever worked with were all musicians.
Is that right?
They had some, and musicians seem to be the most common denominator. I once asked some of them, I'm like, how does your brain work when you daydream? Like, do you see like bubbles and like zero? I think the brain, all of our brains just work differently, right? And I think those creative backgrounds create some of the most profound.
Yeah, I think there's all kinds of science that says music
Right.
It just, there's so many parallels to the business world and so forth. But
Yeah.
in our case, it's also, because we're the relationship-based company, we need passion to ignite on the phone.
Right.
And so the people we're hiring and recruiting into Fort Wayne, Indiana, have a very serious pedigree and background. Many of them a music degree, worked in a studio, toured with so and so.
Right.
Because when you get on the phone with a customer, we not only need expertise, but we want that passion to ignite.
Yep. So, so then you also bring in a lot of acts. They come in and record, and you're working on some pretty advanced, I think, sound production. I may be using the wrong words here, but like some sound production, some things you exposed us to in your studios. Can you talk about that on some of the R&D and the advancements that you're working on to take production to a whole nother level?
Yeah. When we talk about innovation, we talk a lot with the team about we don't ever want to become your dad's dusty old guitar shop, right? The history of Sweetwater is we've always been at the forefront of music making, whatever that is. And as a retailer, not just pushing boxes out of a warehouse, but we actually use the gear ourselves. And so what you're describing for our viewers here is we have a world-class recording studio on premise. Major artists come through and use it. We also do it with manufacturers. We have some R&D happening in there, specifically around Atmos and some of the immersive new technology. And so we use it as sort of a lab, if you will, where we can really get hands-on, and then that reflects back into how we translate that expertise into towards customers.
And then at some point during your journey, you decide to bring in the brands themselves, and you have an alley there.
We do. Vendor Village.
Vendor Village. And you have how many, a dozen or more?
Way more, Toph. We got, there's about 150 brands represented.
In Vendor Village?
Yes. Some offices representing multiple brands.
Right.
But with in other words, not one of our employees, but one of theirs, because we're basically the size of a territory for most of our brands. They invest in just having a person on site.
And so how'd that come about? When was that decision made in your journey to set this Vendor Village and actually have people who are not to your point, they're not Sweetwater employees. They work for those brands, that you're selling and servicing and supporting. How did that come about?
It happened early on, and it happened fairly naturally. We're the company that sells on expertise. The manufacturers want to partner us in that way. I often talk about like when you think about just like why does Sweetwater win? And I always kind of describe it as a onion that like everything we do starts with heart, and then you surround that with this obsession over detail like I've never seen anywhere, and then this value, adding more value, and then you get to expertise, and that's where those vendors come in. It's like how do we just provide more expertise, like research destination we talk about a lot, whether it's the website or calling in on the phone. Then there's more rings you get out here to technical innovation. How did it come about? We just knew that's sort of the product. Like when you think about innovation at Sweetwater, the products we carry, you can find other places. The prices are similar. We're generally a little bit cheaper or in parity. Where we start to differentiate, where we innovate, is actually in that value stack and in that expertise. And so we've made really significant investments, whether it's vendors on site, whether it's content on the website, video production, the demonstrations we do, the live events that we do, is all in the name of that's where we begin to differentiate. And I think that it's interesting to me, this generation, we hear the word innovation and we think technology.
Right.
We think, patents or new products or, but if you whip out a dictionary, it really is more about like how do you create value and how do you create differentiated value. And for us, it's actually in that more customer service lane often.
Yeah, I think that's so brilliant, right? Sometimes the best solutions are like this, the think about stuff differently, the simplest approaches. So what is there anything that pops out in your mind as you think about innovation from the human element versus the tech element? Are there any along that journey over the last, let's see, even the last 10 years, the way that you approached, customer service or, oh my gosh, we realized that our customer base, isn't getting this thirst fed by some service arm or element.
It's the most beautiful part of the business because it's this total one-to-one relationship, as organic as it gets. And then you look at it and you say, okay, well, how do we scale that now serving 13 million customers? There's a whole lot of science involved in to sort of figure out. We talk a lot about right sizing, both relationship and expertise, because not every customer needs high level expertise on every single small purchase, and not every customer wants to be in a relationship with a retailer, and so we get that, and so we'll meet you where you are, right size that relationship with a person. We use a lot of science to get there. And so that's where a lot of the innovation is happening right now, and that's also how we are very different than an Amazon or some more transactional company.
So if I'm a let's say I'm a manager, let's say I'm a young aspiring new college grad, I joined a company, or if I'm a manager or a leader in that company, but I'm aspiring to keep moving forward and keep moving up, and what if I'm in a company that maybe is not very innovative, on either the tech front or the human front? What are some are there any is there any advice you could give me or guidance you could give me of how to approach my team or leadership or my manager, whatever that next rung is, to try to encourage them to think differently about adopting some new ideas?
I think the thing that comes to mind for me, and you kind of said it earlier, like you think about venture capital and that industry is designed for, moonshots or big pop or whatever. And I think about, why do you even innovate at all, right? And what you're doing is expanding enterprise value. And it's okay to say for an early stage company that might be, and just preparing for whatever that 100x jump is. For us, it's not. It's about coming in and incrementally just growing our top line, revenue, relationships with customers or whatever. And so I say that to say that the best advice is you really have to understand your company deeply. Like, how do you grow, and what are these metrics? We talk about three kinds of metrics: growth metrics, we talk about efficiency metrics, and we talk about quality metrics. And we kind of encourage every leader to think about them separately, because you can grow the heck out of your strategy or division and sacrifice quality, or do it inefficiently. And so the three kind of have to work in concert. And so we always encourage our leaders, as you're coming up with ideas and trying to make change within the company, we always ask to weigh every idea against these. Does it ladder up to one of these three? And then we work really hard to create a culture for that innovation to happen. You have to make it okay for leaders to come and say, hey, I've got a crazy idea today. And make that a safe space, and that there's a certain time for that intake process. We think a lot about you've seen the McKinsey arcs of, kind of what we're doing now, what we're doing next, and then sort of the, moonshots or far future ideas. And we believe in that. We think about that a lot at Sweetwater. Some companies call it kind of, you think about time boxing that. So kind of 70%, Google would say 70, 20, 10. One school of thought is, are they chronological? Like, are we working on now and then later and then future? Or should you be doing all three at once, right? Should there always be something in each bucket or whatever? So anyway, we use that framework to say, when you have ideas, does it match these metrics? And is it a thing to focus on now or next or future? And so we try to wrap structure around that organic process.
Are there any cadences or, companies do offsites or stand-ups in the morning, or what? Is there anything that you found that helped your teams become more agile?
Yeah.
Right?
It's actually been a lot of what I've done in the last 2 years, which is you have this founder-led company for 41, 42 years, where we very purposely did not have a lot of planning or budgeting. Like, we were very nimble. And so part of my role was, okay, now we have investors. It turns out they would like you to have a plan and execute against it. But the reason I'm in the seat is I've seen this company for 22 years. I know where that magic is. I know how to protect that and sort of gently retrofit in some structure. And so the answer to your question is we've just created this framework where we have an annual offsite where ideas are kind of put into the system. We have these quarterly QBRs where we sort of create these 13-week sprints and reorient to the landscape around us. We have execution rhythms. We think about operating rhythms throughout the company. And so we've taken this very organic, scrappy, kind of startup mindset, and we've put just enough structure in it to not create overhead or slow
Yep.
us down, but to just keep everybody feeling like, okay, we're aligned, we see where we're going, and that is working well for us.
Are there, have you seen any impacts over the last year or two, or maybe specifically the last year or 6 months even, the things that are going on with tariffs? Like, has that impacted how you acquire inventory or product
No doubt.
or cost
Yeah.
structure, et cetera?
Yeah, affecting all of retail. You can read some earnings reports. It's some folks having a tough run.
Yep.
The good news for Sweetwater is you can tell we don't sell on price. We add more value. We sell on relationship. And so we're far more resilient with our customer base. But clearly when prices are going up, I mean, we're starving musicians. So
Right.
we need to make sure we're adding more value, and let's make sure you get the right piece of gear the first time. And so we're really invested in, even in tough economies, making sure we're doing a good job. Sometimes our business model actually shines in tough economies because we are adding more value and caring about those details. And so we tend to push in and actually gain customers through a season like
Yeah, it
this.
seems like it'd be very resilient, right? Because humans are still humans, and they even if you're a musician from a passion standpoint, like, you're not going to let go of that. Like you're going to continue even in tough times. You're going to figure out how to get that next
Yeah, we
thing.
hear about that. Like, I didn't pay my electricity bill, but I'm gonna get this guitar.
Get this guitar, well, no matter what happens. So let's talk about that, the creative economy.
Sure.
I just find it so fascinating. I just met a young gentleman here, and he's a prodigy, I guess is the word I would use. I think he dropped out of high school as like a sophomore, and he just has a knack for leveraging keyboards and modern technology to create like soundtracks and layer in all these various sounds, for documentaries or whatever it might be. He's absolutely crushing. I think he's like 24 years old now.
Love it.
But I think a lot of times, like, you think about artists like painters or, musicians that even we see on the street corner. These are all entrepreneurs that are pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into their passion. And I feel like we maybe we're already in it. And if not already in it, like, we're at this moment where we could see a massive explosion in this creative economy. And folks in and around in your situation, music, or there's podcasting, recording, all these types of things. Are you seeing anything with that, like just the explosion with technology, the ability to do extremely complex things with one device and a piece of software?
Yeah, it's a great point. We see maybe two explosions, and the first one is this. So many musicians, you and I grew up, we aspired to be on a stage. My heroes were rock and roll stars. I'm like, I'm going to go do that.
Axl Rose, Guns N' Roses.
Now our heroes are YouTube stars. You're our
Right.
hero, Dove.
Right.
And it's the same sort of, like, we're humans. There's some sort of innate creativity and expression, whether it's on a stage or behind a desk or whatever technology. But yeah, we see this trend towards what we would call creators. So not just musicians, but creators, podcasters, streamer, gamer, influencer, short form video. I'm not even trying to produce a full length album. I'm just doing one song out to my social following or whatever. It's a lot of the same gear. It's a little bit more video than maybe what we've done in the past, and our sort of expertise in audio. And that's where we're seeing a lot of our growth is we've now become, we can do that full solution, audio to video. And there aren't a whole lot of companies that specialize in, like, where, hey, my kid wants to be a YouTube star, where do I go? And so Sweetwater's really carved out a reputation there. So that's been the first big explosion. And then I would say the second big explosion now with Gen AI, and now we can sit at a prompt and we can say, make music that sounds like whatever. And there's a lot of concern in our industry, actually. Is that going to eat, people that, would have paid musicians to go produce music? Is it actually going to be terrible for the industry? And clearly there is some of that. We think about, background music or like video game tracks. We see some of that now being produced, cheaper with AI. But we're actually very encouraged, because what we're seeing happen is, now this person gets at a prompt. Wait a minute, I'm creative. And so here's one of your aha moments of, hey, this is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Now maybe I want to pick up an instrument and do it the right way. And so we're actually seeing this kind of new, easier on ramp to creativity, to making music. And so we're actually seeing a little bit of an explosion in meeting customers through this. AI is the sort of new front door to picking up the instrument.
It kind of feels like that. So, Justin Bieber comes to mind as like, didn't he become famous by YouTube videos in his bedroom?
So many
singing?
artists now. Yeah.
Yeah, so many artists. And so now, like, our next movie producers, are they going to come from the bedroom? From junior high or high school, right? These creatives that now have access to the technology and it's more cost effective. They can get it more readily. So just the proliferation of like who's going to be walking across the stage at the Grammys or the Emmys or the Oscars, in the next 5 years are going to be folks that didn't spend 20 or 30 years working themselves through, the politics of Hollywood.
Yeah, there's a lot of things for us to go figure out. The Grammys, for example, are wrestling with, is it okay to submit an AI generated song?
Right.
What percentage of the song can be AI generated? Like there's a whole new set of issues to work through. Copyright, legality, what's inspiration even mean anymore in an AI world? And so it gets interesting. I just keep going back to, at the end of the day, there's just something so human about creativity and expression. We don't want robots making our music.
Right.
There will always be a need, I think, to be in a room creating, collaborating. There's a feeling about that. Live music, there's a feeling in your chest, the haze going and the subwoofer,
Yes.
There's just something that will always be true about music.
What, I don't know how close you guys get to this, but how in the creative economy, like how, in this situation, musicians, well, not just musicians, right? It can be film production, et cetera. But how does that business model, you think for them, how does that change on how they make money? I was talking to somebody the other day that they, what was it? That this one musician, sells a song or something basically for $100 to anybody, but will show up anywhere and play for free, basically.
Oh, interesting.
But like, how do you see do you get into those conversations on how musicians think about their business model?
Right. It's like, I want to be creative. How do I make a living?
Right.
And it's evolving. And what used to be album sales is now streaming, harder to make money there. Some interesting companies out there who are doing things like thinking about super fan experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a band or an artist. You have this ring of customers that are of fans that just love you. And so maybe before I go straight to streaming, what if I could offer my music to a super fan experience with a different sort of revenue model?
Yeah.
And so those kind of things interest us. I'll tell you a really fascinating trend right now. You think about have you been to the Sphere in Las Vegas?
I have not. I have. Okay. My brother was there and said it's just amazing.
Okay.
He said he didn't even watch the Eagles. He was just watching the experience.
It's an incredible experience. Interactive, both the video and the audio. And now there are so many venues across the world that saying, okay, we need to be the bar is going up. How do we create a more immersive experience? Think about just simply ticket sales. Okay, if that venue now has this cooler experience, what are we going to do? And so there's this almost competition. One of the companies doing something really cool is we have in common Elevate Ventures, the Edge Sound Research.
Yes.
Folks that you found discovered this company. And this is the beauty of Elevate Ventures, compelled them to come set up shop in Indiana, which is how we met them.
Yep.
And these guys are innovating into those venues, especially with a sports focus. But you think about for years and years, we go into a sporting venue, there's microphones in there, it's recording the audio. These guys have come in with a software and AI solution over the top of it to recognize the sounds and say, oh, I understand that's the basketball, that's an official, that's the crowd noise. And so what they're doing to innovate inside the venues, and then they have another half of the business where they're like a hard tech where they're actually piping that sound then back into like the premium suites with an
Yep.
entirely new immersive and experiential way. And so we're partnered with them now in a very close way. And I won't drop names, but starting to put these systems in some pretty big venues. I think that's where it's going, which is
Yes.
like, how do you take things that we're already fun experiences, and how do we just find these next level up, in whether it's immersive or how do you just create better experiences?
That technology is pretty amazing, right? Because you could be, to your point, you could be up in a suite or seats that are much more removed from the field or the court, and the you feel it throughout your
Isn't it
body.
cool? Because
It's insane.
because they can isolate these sounds, now you can basically make that luxury suite way up
Right.
feel like courtside.
Feel like courtside.
Because I can hear the sneakers, and I can hear and I can control what's piping in or out. Take the crowd noise
It's so
out.
insane.
Turn up LeBron James and
Right.
and just listen. Feel like you're standing next to him on the court. Like, it's pretty cool.
Then I don't know how much you can say or not, but I had heard that, by the way, and I was so fired up when I heard that. Just that's what I love about Indiana. It is like we have so many national or global leaders in all these various sectors. And in this situation, right, Sweetwater and companies' ability to connect easily to see if there's an opportunity for synergies. Is that are you guys working from a distribution? Is the tip of the spear distribution related, or R&D, advancement of R&D related, or both? Or,
Yeah, no, I can share.
neither?
We are co-developing some pretty cool products. There could be a retail part of that.
Yeah.
And then we have decades experience actually installing into big venues.
Yep.
And so we're partnered in both those ways.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So we have teams of people that go across the country and install into this cruise ship or this
Sure.
NFL stadium, and again, won't drop names, but
Right.
big venues, big churches, house of worship, a big market for us. And so
Yes.
taking the expertise we already have going into those, combining with their now tip of the spear technology. And this goes back to innovation. This is how, when you talk about intrapreneur, sometimes it's just those partnerships. And it's like, how do you find the people that really, we're sort of the 1 + 1 is 3 or whatever they
Right.
say. And so we're always on the lookout for where is that next generation of innovation, and how do we partner with it in a way that is good for them and good for us?
You still play drums occasionally on Sundays, I hear.
I do.
Is
So
this true?
I do.
So, that just sparked a thought in my mind. Is like, if we stop chasing, money,
Okay.
and we stick to who we are as people and our passions, and like whatever is authentically us individually, the odds of that leading to success, and success is not just money, right? But the odds of that leading to success, whether it's happiness or whatever it might be that is our goal, those odds are much higher when we pursue what our passions are.
I believe that. Our founder, Chuck, wonderful, wonderful man, would always talk about our goal is not money. Our goal is to come in and take care of one customer at a time, one detail at a time. If we do that over and over and over with passion, with precision, the money will follow, the growth will follow. But you stay focused right here in the moment, this customer, and then do it again and again and again. And I think that's been a model that works. I can remember, right, with my engineering brain, I can remember going into Chuck in the early days, and I would have the most beautiful spreadsheets and data, and I'd be like, Chuck, I found this great thing. And he would say, Mike, I just want to remind you, every one of those data points is a real human being with feelings and with emotions, and we win one customer at a time, and then it just shows up in spreadsheets later.
Yeah.
It's a good lesson.
That's that's the definition right there of narrow and deep, right? And it's hyper focus, which, as humans and entrepreneurs, squirrel, right? Go chase this other shiny object.
You would be hard pressed to come into one of our leadership meetings. If we're ever talking about numbers and revenue and business, we very intentionally make sure we talk about customers first. So much that we'll put pictures of customers on the screen. Like, let's remember why we do what we do. We're in it for love of the game. We're in it for passion. And so as we train up and coming leaders, we're very, very intentional about, we talk about NPS scores, we talk about experiences, we read love letters. This is why we do what we do. And then the money follows.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I still want to get up there and do these couple recordings I called you about 6 months ago. I need to get on
Let's
this
do it.
with my brother. It's going to be really embarrassing, I think. But for the audience, Mike and I have been talking about going up to one of their studios, and I'm going to try to record maybe a couple of songs, old hymns with my brother.
I love it.
To take us back to the old days of just singing, you know. It's going to be quite amusing. There's a few people in Fort Wayne that found out I was thinking about this. They're like, well, you got to invite us because we want to watch.
They want to come bring popcorn and yeah.
That could be a little interesting. We'll see. But I still want to do that. In fact, maybe we'll do it on a weekday. I heard that you have classes that come through. And maybe we'll just really embarrass ourselves and
go all in.
One of those classes comes through and watches that.
Yeah.
I've got to figure out the music part. Well, back to rights, the copyrights. I've got to make sure we got to find out how we go about finding someone to play the music or find a track that we're able to use. Because who knows what ends up happening with it.
All solvable. Let's get you there.
It'll probably be like 4 people. Probably my son will want to buy the thing for 99 cents, and that's about it. Actually, he won't even do that. He'll make me give it to him for free. So that'll be funny. All right. So then let's go to kind of just the last few years. And maybe kind of right before you took over as CEO. What were those, as you're watching the success of Sweetwater, all these, the innovation, the disruption you're doing, and back to you personally. And so you're like, wow, was there a moment where you woke up one day and said, oh, wow, there might be an opportunity to be able to have the honor of leading this incredible organization? What was that like? What was going on in your mind?
Yeah, the honest answer is no. Didn't aspire. I mean, there's people that would claw over other people's backs or whatever to get in the seat. I think it just speaks to the culture of Sweetwater. We've been working, so many long tenured leaders. I've been there now 22 years. So much of the executive team the same. We just have worked together for such a long time, and I don't think it was. Listen, I think we really operate well together as a unit or whatever. I think we talk a lot about player coach and like we're just in the trench, and so. So no, I don't think any one of us actually aspired to, like, it was just never designed to even for succession. It's just like, yeah, this is a team. This is what we do. And so, it's a great honor to sit in the chair. Like I said earlier, I think I sit in that intersection of how do you keep this special? It's a very unique culture. But how do you then innovate and not fall asleep and kind of move into this, next world of technology.
Any big things you can share? Anything on the horizon for Sweetwater? Any new lines of businesses or things you guys are thinking about?
Yeah, the first answer is no. Like we just still one foot in front of another. If our industry is $8, maybe $9 billion, here we are at just shy of $2 billion. There's a lot of growth still in the core. Then there's those creators that I talk about. That's a much bigger market outside of music and into podcasting, gaming, streaming. We think a lot about educators and schools, not just selling instruments, but we're now renting instruments nationwide.
Oh wow!
And that's it's not only good growth, it's also just heartwarming because now we're meeting these musicians so early in the journey, and we get a chance to just grow that next generation of musicians. Because renting an instrument is not a great experience in a lot of parts of the country where it's just kind of junky instruments or whatever. So these educators are coming to us saying we have to be more inspiring to these students, and so we've partnered and
that's really amazing.
Some really interesting things to put a better quality instrument in your hands, some more value, some other things we're doing. And it's showing up in the numbers. About 1 million students will start playing an instrument in the U.S. Each year. 60% quit in the first year. And we're starting to see that curve bend a little bit where when you get a more inspiring experience, the kids stick with it, kids happier, parents happier, educators happier.
Yeah.
So education and specifically rentals. And then what I said earlier, commercial and just these kind of immersive experiences and venues. And so between those three things, we're finding a lot of growth right now. But again, we're in it for love of the game, for lifelong journeys. It's each one of these, Chuck was always smart enough to say, there's such a thing as growing too quickly when you're the white glove customer service model. And so we have all these great growth paths, but we're also being very intentional to not lose who we are in the process.
Yeah. I love that. There's such a thing as growing too fast. I think it's interesting. Well, I learned how to play the trumpet growing up. And if I could do it all over again, I would absolutely learn the guitar or the keyboard. One of my brothers was a drummer.
Okay.
And y'all drummers are talented. I don't know how you work the cymbal and the bass and everything is all at a different beat. I don't get it. It's impressive. So anyway, hats off to you on that. Well, we have reached the rapid fire.
Oh,
I have 4 questions, and you can say pass, or it's one word. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just whatever comes to mind. We like to throw these in there, and we get some just really authentic answers. So we'll run through these real quick. Does that sound good?
Let's do it.
All right. What is one thing in your industry that you think people should stop doing?
Oh, wow. In our industry, the thing that drives us nuts is it's creativity, right? You're vulnerable. You're putting your art out there, and when you see especially on social media, see some of the tear down of just this, boy, I wish we could knock that off.
Let's be kind.
Let's be kind.
It's so much easier to just be kind, right? I love that. What is one thing or a process or a habit that you think leads to the best ability to disrupt or innovate?
Oh, hey, we talked about it earlier. This idea, you have to understand your business. You have to be able to see the matrix, break it down into the individual levers, and then build these very intentional roadmaps of like, okay, if I wanted to increase outbound calls by X%, what are the great ideas that stack up to that? And then lay it out over time and then communicate that. So I think it's, how do you put this operating system into your company that is just enough structure to get those results without bogging down?
Yep. If you could solve one problem in the world, with innovation that could transform people's lives, what would it be?
Oh boy, what's on my heart right now is we're thinking a lot about youth. I said earlier, inspiring with music, but just this next generation. That if we could just, some of the stories we get to hear of like, I didn't even know I was allowed to be creative. Nobody at home told me that or whatever. If we could just open these minds early on and just see how big the world could be, what impact you could have, that's where I would want to spend time innovating.
I love that. There's a study, NASA, I've talked about this before, but NASA did a study. They started back in the 50s or 60s in a framework for trying to find creative geniuses. And they've run this test apparently millions of times over the years, but they're trying to find talent for them to hire in the future. And they test kids at 5, 10, like 15, 20, 25 years old. If they stop at 25. And per this assessment, when they start, 94% of the kids at 5 years old are considered creative geniuses.
Wow.
At 25 years old, it drops to like 4%.
Wow.
Is that insane?
Because that's how I perceive or whatever.
Right. And so like to your point, like we need to continue to nurture and encourage creativity throughout the whole journey. Yeah. Right. I just think it's a fascinating drop off. Is there anything we haven't covered today that you're passionate about that you want to share?
No, I think we did great.
Hit it all. How do I go buy all my stuff at Sweetwater? Where do I go?
So you're going to go to sweetwater.com with your wallet out.
Get the wallet out, the credit card out.
You're going to get yourself a new trumpet. You're going to book some studio time. You're going to get up there with your brother.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, sweetwater.com.
All right, sweetwater.com. For all of our listeners out there, an incredible company that focuses on the customer journey. I love that. Truly a customer first, a customer-centric company that has just grown incredibly. Thank you, Mike, for coming on the show today. It was great to spend more time with you.
Always fun to see you, Joe. This is fun.
All right, until next time, innovate or evaporate.